In 2024, while every major news network was hedging their election predictions and posters were getting it wrong over and over, a group of anonymous traders on the internet called it with almost perfect accuracy, weeks before the actual election night. They weren't political insiders, they weren't data scientists at some think tank, they were regular people like you and me putting their own real money on the line. Welcome to prediction markets, the most honest forecasting tool that most people have never even heard of. Here's how it works. So, imagine you could buy a contract that says, "Will the Fed cut interest rates in June?" If you think yes, then you buy a yes contract. If you think no, on the other hand, then you go ahead and buy a no contract. The price of that contract moves between 0 cents and $1, and that price essentially represents the crowd's probability estimate. So let's say a yes contract is trading at 73 cents. The market is saying there's roughly a 73% chance that happens. When the event resolves, if you were right, your contract pays out at $1. If you were wrong, it just goes to zero. Simple as that. Platforms such as Kalshi and Polymarket let anybody do this right now. Really anybody. And you can bet on a huge variety of things, including things like elections, Fed decisions, the temperature in Boston tomorrow, whether a government bill is going to be passed tomorrow, the Bitcoin price tomorrow, your favorite sport team, really anything that you can say has a verifiable outcome. So, why should you care? Because these markets are consistently more accurate than polls, pundits, and experts. And the reason to this really is fairly simple: money doesn't lie. So, when a pollster calls you and asks who you're voting for, there's no cost to lying. You might say what sounds socially acceptable, you might mess around, or you might not even pick up the phone. And now, the poll seems to have a sampling problem on top of everything else. But when you have $500 of your own money on an outcome, suddenly you get honest real fast. You stop going with what your gut thinks and you start actually researching. You stop rooting for your favorite team and you start asking yourself, what's actually going to happen? That right there is the core insight that you need to understand. Prediction markets align incentives with accuracy in a way that traditional forecasting never has. There's a concept in economics called the wisdom of crowds. When you aggregate the independent judgments of a large group of people, especially when those people have skin in the game, the group estimate tends to be even the best individual experts. Prediction markets are basically the wisdom of crowds with a financial engine behind it. Let's go ahead and look at some real examples to show this in action. So, in the 2024 presidential election, you had Polymarket, and they had the eventual winner of the election leading for weeks on end before the election day, even while majority of the national polls were still showing a toss-up. The market wasn't just guessing. Thousands of traders were processing information such as early voting data, state level trends, and demographic shifts, and the price reflected all of that in real time. Meanwhile, all of this was happening, you still had cable news calling it too close to call. But the truth is, it's not just politics. Before the Fed's rate decisions, you can go ahead and watch Kalshi's interest rate market shift as new economic data comes in. Let's say the jobs report comes out stronger than expected. You can go on Kalshi and you watch the Fed holds rate steady contract spike within minutes. The market digests new information faster than any analyst on TV can even finish their sentence. Even in things like cryptocurrency, prediction markets have flagged major price moves before they actually happen. In multiple situations that Bitcoin has been approaching key price levels, the contract prices on Kalshi were pricing in breakouts or crashes before the actual mainstream crypto influencers caught on. It goes to show that people risking their own real money are better forecasters than people just chasing clicks. So, if you want to go ahead and see this for yourself, many platforms like Kalshi are legal and regulated in the US. You can go ahead and create an account, browse thousands of live or inactive markets, and you can see exactly what the crowd thinks is going to happen on everything from tomorrow's weather to how the GDP growth is going to change next year. You don't even have to trade, but as long as you watch the odds move in real time, it's going to change how you consume news and information. When someone on TV says something is definitely going to happen, you can go on Kalshi, pull up the prediction market, and see that traders are only giving it a 30% chance. That gap between the narrative and probability is where the real information lives. So the truth is, prediction markets are still early. Lots of people, if not most people, have never even heard of them. But I will say they are growing fast. You know this because trading volumes have exploded over the last 2 years. Regulators are starting to take them seriously, and major financial institutions are starting to pay attention. You have Bloomberg, JP Morgan, and Goldman. They're all watching these markets now because the signal quality is better than almost anything else available. Nowadays, we're moving into a world where probability based thinking is going to matter much more than opinion based thinking. The people who understand how to read odds, spot mispricings, and think in percentages instead of headlines are going to have a massive information advantage. That's essentially what this channel is about. Thank you for watching. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on prediction markets, economics, and probability, go ahead and subscribe. We will be uploading new videos every week breaking down what the odds are actually telling us about today's world. I'll see you in the next one.